Oh, hello, cat.
We have a cat here.
We have Mui here.
Hi, Mui. Mui is here because he, right?
She.
She wants to read the book, so yeah. Alright.
Hello.
So we are in, where are we? Beautiful SS.
Subang.
Beautiful Subang. And we're gonna do a book review today. Because, well, how did this start? Huh?
Well,
I was reading a book.
you were reading a book and then you passed me a copy.
And I was like, because it was an e-book at first. I liked it so much that I went out and bought my own copy. But I was reading it and I was like, hey, Wani might like this book. And, oh, by the way, Miss Hazwani Hussain.
Hello.
Yeah. And I am Dano, of course, which you guys are probably sick of me already. So the book is Beauty is a Wound by Indonesian writer Eka Kurniawan. It's kind of this historical novel that is filled with magical realism. And the first thing I wanted to ask is whether you think this is a feminist novel.
Well, I don't think so, because it expressed the vulnerabilities of the women.
Okay.
And, well, my understanding of feminism is somebody who's fighting for women to be empowered. But rather this book focuses on women accepting their role according to society and according to the time of the society. So I'm not quite sure if you can call it a feminist book.
The reason why I asked that is because, like, I feel throughout the book, because without giving away too much, it's very explicit, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, it's very explicit.
there's a lot of sex in it. There's a lot of prostitution.
Yeah.
There's even like rape. Like it is a novel like that talks about colonialism in the country of Indonesia over, I'm not even sure how many years is it, but how long is it? It's like throughout World War II, from the it starts out, I think, with the Dutch over there.
Yes,
And
that's
it comes like the Japanese.
Yep.
And then there's a whole detailed story about
How the occupation
Yeah.
affected the
And-
roles of the women in the society.
comfort women
Yeah.
that were forced into prostitution by, the Imperial Japanese Army and stuff like that. The book sets out with a very interesting kind of introduction where Dewi Ayu wakes from her grave after being dead for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. And she wakes up, and then I think after a while she wants to see her daughter. So she has a few daughters. They're all really beautiful. Like, and the novel goes on to talk about each and every one of them, and even their kids after. The particular character that I consider to be the main character. Her name is actually Beauty.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. And the tone of the novel sets out that, she's not as beautiful as her other sisters. And she is actually like really, really, really ugly. Yeah. So the novel sets out like almost like as if it's going to tell Beauty's story. But it doesn't. It talks about
Why
her
she happens to be named Beauty, but having, well, what you call ugly. But I think it's not really ugly, but it's quite like mystical kind of element in it, where you have conversations with the spirits. Wait, what am I talking about?
But that comes later in the book.
Yeah,
much,
true.
much, much later.
Oh,
Yeah,
correct.
because as we said, like it talks about the whole colonialist, well, not the whole, but a good part of the colonialist occupation in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I thought like it's gonna be like, because so many bad things happen in the book, and I thought Beauty would come in and, you know,
Yeah.
kick everyone's ass and stuff like that. But it doesn't really happen that way, does it?
It doesn't.
Like, so that was why I was expecting kind of like a feminist kind of empowering book, but it's not really like that. But at the same time,
It is, I suppose, when you put it that way, because it's like, even though this book is a fiction book and it's based on an era that is different, it still represents much of the situations where some women are put in, and therefore a very much gruesome and just real first point perspective of what it's like to be put in that situation.
the sun is out.
And so when you read this book, it might shatter you.
Well, the reason why I'm talking about so much about the feminist thing is like, because at the same time, it's not really a historical novel, because it's filled with all of these myth.
Correct.
Myth
Yes, that's
is
the right
a
word.
major
Myth.
part of this book
Yeah.
that
It
makes
is.
it such a page turner. And for the first like 200-300 pages, I couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just what's gonna happen next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's so like kind of silly as well. You have people flying off mountains and
Disappearing, and
Yeah.
then it became like a legend where the mountain is known as such,
Yeah.
based on that myth.
and then like
And he's done it so well to accommodate it in all these stories. And on top of that, he will talk about it at a different time to connect it later at a much different
it's a
time.
master novelist.
Yeah,
He is.
so-
yeah.
It's really a page turner, a
Yeah.
lot of choice, and
Yeah.
it just mind blowing.
Yeah, we want to talk in depth about, you know, what happens in the book now. Yeah.
So,
What do you feel like? Any favorite parts of the book?
well, the title itself
Yeah.
captured me.
Same.
Yeah,
Yeah. I like love because to be honest, the middle parts were kind of a bit, I wouldn't say boring, but I wasn't as into it as the first 200-300 pages.
yeah, because then it started talking about
Yeah.
the perspective of the men that are using these women as comfort,
Yes.
and it's
It's very violent.
Yeah, and it's quite hard to go through all that. Oh, hello, cat.
We have a cat here.
We have Mui here.
Hi, Mui. Mui is here because he, right?
She.
She wants to read the book, so yeah. And what else we talked about so much before?
This book doesn't talk much about cats, but it talks a lot about dogs. So
Oh yes.
it does. So I can't leave now.
Anjing. Yeah. Yeah.
The bit that is also of favorite to me is just, I think mythology at some point is a reference of real life situation put in a delivery where it could be much more accepted to society. But also with myth, you tend to not attend to the true situation with true emotions and the appropriate, well, to say what is appropriate also is really hard with this book, because they just do as they please and
I think
they just accept it. It's very adaptive.
I think a big part of myth in this book is making the violence, you know, the rapes, the prostitution, the killings, almost kind of comical and very light to be
Yeah.
accepted, you know?
Yeah.
Because when I was studying philosophy before, there's a writer like Adorno and Horkheimer who theorized that myth is actually, you know, people used to tell myth before because they didn't have science
Correct,
or
yeah.
any other means of like explaining daily phenomena, tragedies, you know, simple things like happiness or sadness and death. And this book just uses so much myth. I don't know if anyone's read other Eka Kurniawan books, but I've read Man Tiger, which you should read too, by the way.
This is my only Eka Kurniawan book that I came across.
But I like this one better.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Because that
Started
one's
with the right one.
Yeah, that one is also full of myth, and but this one is just in between history and myth, and just making everything flow really nicely.
Yeah.
And while for the first while for the most part you feel really like heart-wrenching to read at parts, but at the same time when myth comes in, it's able to kind of make it more acceptable, I would say. Not acceptable,
it makes you
but
go to those pages after those first 200 pages to come to an end.
yeah. Towards the middle and the end, it got more like historical. It tells the story of the resistance, about the communists, about how there was a crackdown, and some of the main characters, some were communists, some were not, and they're like warring with each other, and it all comes back to this story of beauty,
And her mother.
and it's such a I wouldn't say it flows, but it's a very unique way of tying the book back together.
Correct.
Yeah.
His planning is interesting. The way he wants to time out all the chapters.
Yeah. Because it's very hot. It's burning out here.
Yeah.
But we are gonna finish this.
Yes.
Because towards the end, the demon comes in. There's a demon
that's the myth
in the book, and you don't expect it at all. I don't know whether the author intended this to happen, because the demon is actually one of the characters, a minor character in the middle of the book.
Yeah, well, the demon is basically a person who died, but he died in a very interesting situation, holding a grudge towards one of the character.
Yeah. And he was the cause of all of this tragedy.
Yeah, based on that grudge. So almost as if he's talking about karma, but not really.
Yeah, because they didn't really do anything to him.
No, they didn't.
It's kind of this like really pointless kind of violence that is brought to the main characters, which is also, I want to say, central to the colonialist kind of, what happened as a whole with colonialism, so it's so interesting. And when he comes back, and when the demon comes back and everything is tied back to him, you kind of feel like, okay, like, what's happening here? Like, it's pretty unexpected, I would say.
Yeah. With the most intense emotions going on in this book is love at each of its own.
Yeah.
Just there is misrepresentation of love, there is frustration of not obtaining one's love, there is also getting love, sacrificing love to have a different kind of love. It's funny because it's all real life situation, just put in a fiction bit, a bit more exaggerated, but in a very good way.
It's a really good book.
You guys should read it.
Yeah.
Read it if you want to understand or even agree or disagree whether beauty is indeed a woman.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it, isn't it?
It is so hot! Okay.
Check out his book. And there's also a new book out, I think, that I bought but I haven't read.
Don't remember.
It's called Vengeance is Mine, All Others Pay Cash, or something like that. It's a crazy, apparently it's a pulp fiction.
Yeah, I really think that he likes to dwell in what's going on in people's mind, those who has gone through a lot of trauma. Do they accept their situation and absolutely just be honest about whether or not they have a choice, and if they could go against all odds, or if they're just going to
somehow
sacrifice
find a way.
sacrifice a bit of yourself. It's just, even talking about it is hard. because it's not something that a normal person would do.
Yeah. Apparently, when this came out in Indonesia, in
Yeah.
Bahasa, it
Oh, your cantik is Luka?
Cantik tu Luka.
Oh, is.
Yeah. Cantik is Luka. Apparently, when it came out, the reviewers didn't like it.
Oh.
They said it was a failed novel. Because I was watching his interview on YouTube. I understand Bahasa.
What did they say? It's a failed novel.
Yeah, it had a lot of bad reviews. Like, it was a failed novel. But I don't think that. I think it's really good.
Out there in your face, so I can
Yeah.
understand when you are trying to put across a very strong opinion. A lot of people will go against it.
Well, yeah.
This isn't an easy book.
Definitely.
But, yeah, have fun.
And we'll try and do more book reviews, I guess, because we had a lot of fun talking about this.
Yeah, a lot
Yeah.
more.
So, I guess
Than
that's
this.
it. Yeah. Until next time.
I'm terrible. Are you gonna cut out or is this just
Hey,
really
cut.
wrong? Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm so nervous.
Tak lah, just chill lah.
Okay.